It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Look, Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. It's another edition of the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker. Thanks for tuning in on a Monday. Hopefully you had a great weekend. I know certainly for watching the Aggies, that wasn't that great. That was very frustrating. And we just spent the last hour going over that. Certainly, if you want to still weigh in, we'll still take your text and react to it. 435-339-0321 is the Young Power Sports text line. But there are other things that we wanted to get through this hour, especially a growing chorus of talking about expansion of the postseason. And we just had an expanded college football playoff conclude just last month. And they're already talking about expanding it and changing it. And we haven't even got to the NCAA tournament this season. And there's growing discussion about expanding the NCAA tournament. So is it the smart move to expand? Do we create more opportunities? Do we water it down? Is there a fine balance to be struck? Or is it just fine where it is? Are we at the Goldilocks zone, or do we need to go more one way or another? And I'd love to get your reactions to that. It was also the All-Star Weekend in the NBA. New format, slightly different way of doing it. Did that work for you? If you listened at all to this radio station throughout the day, a lot of people don't feel like it worked very well. So we'll share our own opinions on that. And also updates on what's going on with the high school basketball playoffs. Both the girls and the boys basketball playoffs in 4A continue. And a number of teams are still in it. And we'll be traveling down to Cedar City for the semifinals as they begin again at SUU on Thursday morning.
Remember the last time I went down to SUU to cover high school basketball? I think Mason Falslev ended up winning a championship with Skyview.
Okay.
They were the 4 seed. Back when they had the, if you're a top 4 team in your region, you were a 1, 2, 3, or 4 seed. And Skyview was 4 seed. Last playoff team out of, I can't remember if it was Region 11 or Region 10 at that point, but last team in the playoffs out of the region, they end up winning the state title. It was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Bear River had a huge upset over, I think it was Orem, where Orem was like this really highly touted. I want to say Ryland Jones was on that team.
Well, wasn't there some extracurricular stuff going on in the stands?
I don't know if it was the stands, but Orem got 2 or 3 technicals in a row. There was a 7 or 8-0 run by Bear River, and almost all of it was technical free throws. People were getting ejected. So I don't think it was Ryland Jones. I think he went to a different.
He was at Olympus.
Yeah, Olympus. So it was somebody else. I think it was. Might have even been Puka Nakua.
Oh, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I don't know if it was him specifically. It could have been.
It was somebody who was eventually
known more as a wide receiver.
Yeah, he was a wide receiver who I want to say
but
went
also
to USC
played
or
basketball.
Something. Yeah, so he was a football player playing basketball. He's pretty good at it. And then they had another guy who went D1 in basketball, and I can't remember who that was. That's why it was confusing with maybe being Ryland Jones. But yeah, it was a very athletic and talented Orem team that just got blitzed out of nowhere by a Bear River team that couldn't miss from 3 of that entire game, and then Orem just self-imploded in that game. It sounds mean to say this, but it was kind of funny to watch.
Let's talk about that first. Actually, since we're talking about it, the high school basketball playoffs. We had some games on Friday and we had games on Saturday afternoon. The girls played on Friday. We actually had a game earlier in the day on Friday afternoon. Green Canyon was at Snow Canyon. That game started at 3. Green Canyon kept it close in the first quarter, and then Snow Canyon does what Snow Canyon has been doing, and they just ran away, and they won that one 60-46. So the Green Canyon Wolves girls basketball season is concluded. But the higher seeded teams out of the region played well. Ridgeline got a palindrome score on Uinta, 72-27. Skyview in another Region 11 rematch. We've seen a few of those in the playoffs. They hosted Westfield, took them to the woodshed, 76-35. But we had an upset on Friday. Mountain Crest went down to number 7 Desert Hills. Mustangs are rated number 10, and the Mustangs pulled off the upset, 65-57.
Yeah, not the biggest upset, the 7-10 matchup, but upsets can be uncommon at times in high school sports, where sometimes just the higher seeded teams are just better. But you get something like this where Mountain Crest, who I felt has been really growing. Like, they've been a team that's really struggled at kind of the bottom of Region 11 for a while, but they are improving, and you can see it in the players. A lot of the players that are on this year's team were really young last year. They struggled as a team last year. They're toward the bottom of region. But even in a region that's got teams like Ridgeline and Skyview and even a solid Green Canyon team, Mountain Crest was plugging along and really probably was that third best team. I mean, by the RPI, they were the third best team in the region. So really nice to see Mountain Crest moving on. Of course, their reward for the upset over Desert Hills is they now have to face Snow Canyon. So
right. Congratulations. So that was an interesting Friday in Region 11. Well, teams from Region 11 in the 4A girls basketball playoffs. And we've got replays of a number of those games and galleries from them as well. But then on Saturday afternoon, it was the boys' turn. And Green Canyon, number 1 team in boys, took care of business, beat Westfield in one of those Region 11 rematches.
Yep.
Beat them 60-42. Ridgeline, number 3 seeded team, taking on number 14 Hillcrest. That turned out to be a lot closer than comfortable. Ridgeline held a decent lead into the fourth quarter, and then Hillcrest just came alive, and the Riverhawks just got just stone cold. They couldn't do hardly anything, and Hillcrest was in a position to almost steal that one in Millville.
You know, I think injuries, what I've heard, have started to take a bit of an impact on the boys' team, where it's a bit of a concern. But coming away with that win against a solid Hillcrest team. But yeah, it's all that matters once you get to the playoffs is win and move on. Doesn't matter how pretty it was. Doesn't matter what the final score was. If your number is higher than their number, nobody cares.
So Ridgeline wins at 52-44. They move on, and then Logan made the trek down to St. George to take on number 4 Dixie, and Dixie manhandled the Grizzlies. Yeah, 57-26.
Yeah, it's just a really good Dixie team, and I know Logan has been playing really good basketball, relative even compared to some of the struggles they've had. Like, they've overcome a lot of those, but sometimes you just face a really good team, and there's not a whole lot you can do with a lot of youth on that team. But this is a squad that you're going to need to watch out for next year, I think, because a lot of that youth coming back, guys getting better, guys playing really good as young players. But unfortunately, season coming to an end. But it was a heck of a season for them. Record may not show it, but as someone who experienced a lot of that firsthand, it's seeing the fight in those kids and what they did compared to what they had to go up against. It was nice to be able to see that.
So the quarterfinals will pick up on Thursday morning on the campus of Southern Utah University, and the first game of the day is at 9:30 a.m. Thankfully, that's not one of our teams up here, but we've got 5 teams still in it. So 2 from boys, 3 from girls out of Region 11. And so the day starts at 11:10 with number 1 Green Canyon taking on number 9 Timpanogos for boys basketball. Then there's a gap. Number 3 Ridgeline versus number 6 Hurricane at 2:30. Then we start into the girls slate of the game, the schedule for the evening at SUU. Number 6 Skyview takes on number 3 Payson at 4:10. Number 10 Mountain Crest taking on number 2 Snow Canyon at 5:50, and number 1 Ridgeline taking on number 8 Cedar at 7:30. So a full day of games on Thursday at Southern Utah University.
I'm pretty sure Ridgeline, it was either Ridgeline or Green Canyon, went up against Cedar at SUU way back in that when I mentioned having covered the high school games. Cedar, they were going on their own undefeated trip. Ultimately completed. They went undefeated that year, winning the championship. And I can't remember if they beat Ridgeline or Green Cane in the championship game. I'm pretty sure it was Ridgeline, but I could be wrong on that. I think Ridgeline and Green Cane played each other in the semifinals. Or, well, now I suddenly can't remember. I'd have to go back and check. It's not that important of a detail anyway.
Well, it's going to be a busy day, and then it'll pick up again on Friday with the semifinals, with the championship games taking place on Saturday. And any of these games involving our local teams, we will have them on local radio. Unfortunately, none of our broadcast crews are able to get down to Cedar City to call these games. We're partnering with some other broadcasters in that area to help us with those, but we'll have them on local radio and try to get them on Cache Valley Daily if we can find the video streams for them as much as they are available, and share those with you so you can follow your favorite teams from afar if you want. If you can't make it down there, we get it.
That's really important. Like, 'cause when I do these games, you get people coming up and saying thank you just because it's something they have. Obviously, they'd like to go back and watch the replay, even if they were at the game. So it's a resource we try our best to provide. And of course, down in Southern Utah, we end up kind of scratching each other's backs where it's like they can't make it up here, we can't make it down there. So helping each other out with sharing the video and audio of these games.
Speaking of what's going on in state tournaments, the girls wrestling championship took place over the weekend, and Bear River taking first place in the 4A girls wrestling championship. Mountain Crest finished second overall. Also, a couple other individual recognitions. Bear River coach Jason Bingham recognized as the 4A Coach of the Year, and a number of his wrestlers won state championships. Janessa Esquivel in 125-pound weight class, Reese Hatch at the 155-pound weight class, because she's a two-time state champ now. Eve Alsup in the 170-pound weight class, a three-time state champ. Sydney Nielsen in the 190-pound weight class, and Brighton Wise in the 235-pound weight class. And also need to recognize Ridgeline wrestler Camry Grange. She won in the 110-pound weight class. So congratulations to the local wrestlers who came away with some hardware down at UVU over the weekend.
Girls wrestling isn't too far along in its existence as a sanctioned sport, if I'm not mistaken. But by golly, has Region 11 run 4A girls wrestling in that time? Like, it's like Bear River, Mountain Crest, like they own girls wrestling.
They have performed very well. Yes. Then one other note, as we're talking about high schools, I had the opportunity to run down to Ridgeline High School on Sunday afternoon, just as the Aggie game was going. And so I was very conflicted trying to keep an eye on two things at once. But the Ridgeline cheer squad returned to Cache Valley after competing in Southern California at a national competition, and they won. They won a national competition in their division, and so they came home as national champs. And they had 40 different students on their team. They had two different shows, I guess, if you will, that they performed, and one of them advanced to the championship round, and they came home champions overall. So some national champions. They had a police escort coming through the south end of the valley, so that was fun for them, and excited to see them come off the bus with cheers and all that stuff. So congratulations to the Ridgeline cheer squad as they bring home a national title.
There you go. Hail to the champs. That's something that I know we've seen it a decent amount. We've seen national champions come out of the valley, but in various different things, but it's always nice to see another.
Yes, absolutely. So got details on those stories and photo galleries as well on CacheValleyDaily.com, as well as videos to go back and watch some of these basketball games from the weekend and see the archives of these games and see how they performed, and then see the schedule for games that are still to come for later on this week, with both the boys and the girls basketball taking place, picking up on Thursday down at SUU in Cedar City. Now, for some people, a little hard to get away after some people took a 3-day weekend, and a little bit of a challenge to get back on the road to go down to SUU. Because if you're going to go down there, it's not like you can just go down to see the games and come home. You got to commit to be there. It's not like if they were in Salt Lake or in Orem, but it moves around a little bit. And it wasn't that long ago. It was here in Logan. So
yeah,
I guess it's only right that they take a turn heading down to southern Utah somewhere.
Yeah, so they move it up and down and around the state. So that's just how it's going to be.
Yes. Let's do this. Let's call a timeout here in the Full Court Press. We'll continue talking about tournaments and championships, but some discussion, a growing discussion about changing it, at least on the collegiate level, for football and basketball. Are they onto something, or do they just need to leave it alone? We'll discuss next here on the Full Court Press.
This is Brent Wallace with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account, and if you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Hi, Cache Valley. This is Dan Newmeyer at Blue Sky Restoration, formerly ARS. Do you know what to do if you are experiencing water flooding inside your home? First, make sure everyone is safe, turn off the water, and call Blue Sky. Do you know where the water shutoff is at in your home? If you don't, call Blue Sky and we'll send out a representative for free to help you find it and tag it so you can be prepared if an emergency arises. Remember Blue Sky, restoring your property and your life for a brighter tomorrow.
Hey, did you drop the ball on Valentine's Day? If so, I can help you make up for it. This is Jarek from Jarek's Fine Jewelry. No matter where you're at in your relationship, we have something she'll love. Stop in and we'll help you pick her out a thoughtful yet inexpensive necklace, pair of earrings, bracelet, watch, or even if you're ready for the next step, with our selection of over 3,000 designs, we'll find her the perfect engagement ring. Even after Valentine's Day, it's all about the romance. Make it special, make it Jarek's.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
We've had a lot of snow in the mountains, so, man, it's a great time to have a sled to go out and enjoy it. They've got a lot of sleds at Young Power Sports of Logan, and they've got a huge inventory of used sleds, and really they're trying to get rid of them. So they're slashing prices for 4 days only, starting on Wednesday through the weekend. Save an additional $1,000 off the lowest advertised price on their website at youngpowersportslogan.com. Go check that out. See what they have in store, what they have available right now. A lot of the great name brands at Young Power Sports in Logan. So the NCAA tournament has last time it expanded was when? 2011? 14?
Maybe 11 or 14. I can't remember, one of those two. I think it was 11. I think you're right. So
it's been at 68 teams for a while.
It went from 65 to 68. So
yeah, so it wasn't a dramatic increase. What they did is they created this first four. So they had games on Tuesday and Wednesday to get kind of those bubble teams opportunities to play into the tournament.
Essentially, they doubled down on the stupid idea of the play-in games.
Yes. But now there's discussion about expanding that even further to add even more bubble teams opportunities to get in. So the question is multi-tiered here, Jason. Are there that many teams that get left out that we should give more opportunity to get in? And if they expand to another first four site, doesn't that just provide more TV opportunities, more ticket sales, more revenue opportunities for the overall NCAA tournament?
Well, that's why it's eventually going to happen. Like, that's just it. It's going to expand eventually, despite the fact that everyone who loves college basketball, and I do mean everyone who actually loves college basketball, they don't want it to expand. Everyone who only cares about the money side of college basketball, they want it to expand. And unfortunately, the people who care about the money side tend to hold some of the power because they're the ones making that money. So Like the coaches, players, fans, media, all of them are screaming to the high heavens. 68 is just fine. And honestly, 68 is 4 too many, but it's a gap that we can live with. Now, expanding a playoff does become necessary if you keep adding more and more teams to a league. Like if you have a 4-team playoff and you have 30 teams, that's too small. You need to expand. The expansion of the NCAA tournament was ultimately necessary to go from what it used to be like, probably a dozen or so teams to like then it was 36 and then it was in the 40s and they eventually expanded to 64. I forget the exact progression, but you had that happening all throughout the 20th century. That was ultimately necessary. Timing, who knows if it was right or not. But when you're getting into the 300s, as there were more and more Division I teams, now we're at like 365, give or take. It changes almost every year, and I can't keep track. But it's
right.
It's in the 360s. Having a 68-team field is about right. And as I have said over and over, most of the people listening have been waiting for me to say this, or expecting me to say it. But my belief is that every team, or if you're a team that deserves to be in the NCAA tournament, you will be in the NCAA tournament. You will not be left out. If you got left out, it means you didn't deserve it. And that's not to say that everybody who gets in deserves it. There are a dozen plus teams that get into the tournament that didn't deserve it. They just happened to get in because the selection committee decided they should get in. But there's only a third to a half of the teams that are in the tournament actually deserve to be there. The fact that there's some fluff at the end of that, I don't really care because, again, it's 68 teams out of 360. Everyone who deserves to get in gets in, and there's a bunch of other teams that get in that make the field more interesting. You had all the Cinderellas. And I think just as importantly, like you kind of need that buffer room because there's some teams that if it was only like a 30 or 36 team tournament, which I'd say there's about 30 to 36 teams that deserve it every year. If you only had a 30 or 36 team tournament, some of those deserving teams would get left out. So having that buffer room is nice. And especially because it basically gives everyone an opportunity. Like, it gives them an opportunity to get in. Every team has a chance. Sure, the path is a little dodgier for those one-bid leagues where one slip up at the wrong time means you're done. Whereas a lot of teams get a lot of leeway. Like Utah State has a lot of leeway to lose games and still get in. Of course, that's the luxury you're afforded when you play a tougher schedule.
Right.
But it's also why, like, if you deserve to be in the tournament, you'll be there. Because if you're in a one-bid league and you deserve to be in the tournament, you're going to win all those games. And it shouldn't be that much of a problem. And where the problem lies is in I have my own beef with the conference tournament champion getting the automatic bid. I think that's kind of dumb. Because it should go to the regular season champion because they've earned it.
Right. Yeah, it's how you performed over the course of 4 months rather than 4 days.
Yeah. And so to me, if you're going to eventually expand to these 76, I don't know if they'll go far beyond that because the NCAA knows that it's an unpopular thing to expand. So they're trying to limit the scope, but they will get there eventually and they'll overcome all the outrage. I would love to see it so that regular season and conference tournament champions get in. If they're the same team, then just one team gets in. You don't get two. It's if you win the regular season title or the conference tournament, you get in. One or the other, or if you win both, you're the one team. Congratulations, your conference now hates you.
Yeah.
But that would be a nice adjustment. I think if you went to a 76-team field and then implemented that, I actually wouldn't really mind it all that much. Because my biggest problem with expanding the field is that there'll be this rhetoric about, adding more deserving teams, which no, they don't deserve it. They're just going to be lucky to get in. Or if anybody says, it'll allow more mid-major teams to get in. Well, they're snorting the cocaine that came straight from the SEC.
You're not going to get more teams out of the WAC or the Big Sky. Yeah. You're not going to get more teams out of the MAC or Southland. What you're going to do is you're going to get more teams out of the Big 12. You're going to get more teams out of the Big 10, more teams out of the SEC. And it's just you're providing more opportunities to the power conferences to send their very mediocre teams to the NCAA tournament rather than rewarding good teams who may have just gotten left out because their conference doesn't have the name recognition or the quality resume like some others want to try to parade around as the end all be all.
Yeah, you look at what's happening in the Big West right now, where they've got several teams that you'd like to be able to see get into the NCAA tournament. Your UC San Diego's and I think Irvine. There's a couple of them that are pretty high up there, and they've had some pretty nice battles. I know UC Riverside's kind of throwing a wrench in some of the Big West's hope of maybe being a 2-bid league, even though that's, as much as I'd like to see a 2-bid Big West, that's just not realistic because of the biases against those low major teams. But like if the Big West could get 2 teams or the WAC, like that would be nice. But that's just not what's going to happen. You will legitimately have, if you go to a 76 or even higher than that, you will have power conference teams, major conference teams that have a losing record. Like overall, you have teams with a losing record in conference play in the tournament, which I don't know how I feel about that, generally speaking. But in setting aside any bid stealers, because obviously you can have a losing record, but if you win the conference tournament, then that's going to happen.
Yep.
That's just March Madness.
That's how it's built.
But that's something that can always happen. But like you could have an at-large team that has a losing record. Like that's something that could actually happen if you expand it, and that's just almost criminal. Like letting someone who has a losing record. I get they're playing a more difficult schedule, but you created that problem yourself when you hoarded all the good teams together. Let all these mid-major and low-major teams, like, give them a shot at the championship. Like I said, if you deserve to be in the tournament, you will be in it. Don't add more undeserving teams, especially teams with losing records that can't even manage to handle their own conference.
Like I don't disagree with an idea that makes it a second site for a first 4. Dayton has been the site for that.
The first 4 is lame. Nobody cares. If you win a first 4 game, nobody even counts it as winning in the NCAA tournament.
Well, it does make it, because really the NCAA tournament begins on that Thursday. That's when it's universally known to begin, is that Thursday morning.
Yeah, I forget routinely to watch the first 4. And that's coming from somebody who usually watches about 30 games or however. Like I watch almost at least portions of like every single first and second round game that I can get a hold of. If there's enough time, I'm watching them all. Like as much as I can. Mind you, it's been trickier for me the last couple of years because I'm usually on the road, but I'm still watching them. Like I'll be sitting in the media room waiting for Utah State to play, and I'm looking at 3 different television screens watching every single game I can get a piece of. Yeah, and I forget to watch the first 4 because I just don't care.
Yeah, I like the only reason I'm thinking the first 4 at another location, just based on what they've said, might indicate that it would be somewhere in the West. And if so, Salt Lake would be a good spot. There's some saying that Boise would be a good spot for that. Maybe even New Mexico, out of Albuquerque.
If they're considering anything that isn't in California, which, to be honest, it's just going to be Vegas. But
I mean, how does Dayton, Ohio, end up as the de facto?
I don't know. Somebody gave him money
every year.
But if someone could get it, that'd be nice. But again, nobody actually cares about the first 4 or the first 8. People don't watch those games. People don't even count them as tournament wins. That's if you're going to go to a 76 thing, try and find a 76 team bracket.
Right. Yeah.
I know that would end up like people don't want to break the current mold that we have. The 1-16, the 8-9, like everyone has that in their head. Like it is, every college basketball fan knows, like, what seed does a 5 play, Eric?
12.
See, you knew that off the top of his head. He didn't even have to think about it. And suddenly, if you go to a 76 team bracket, it changed. That's why they may go to a different thing. But if you expand it by, would that be 8 more teams? Are you going to do a first 12?
Yeah, I know.
Or are you going to do it like they did like when they first went, I think it was around 2011, like when they went to the 68, they tried to call the first 4 the first round, which was the dumbest idea ever.
Yeah.
Glad they decided to stop that.
Did not go over well.
Except now there's still multiple teams that are on record as having lost in the second round, including Utah State. But they didn't win in the first round. So all it does is confuse people like me. Wait, second round? Oh, never mind.
But you only played 1 game.
Yeah, it was like 2012 or whatever, and it was the second round. 64 teams get a first round bye in a 68 team tournament. Congratulations.
5338 texting in on the Young Power Sports text line. I'm with Jason. In my view, the first 4 games are just a playoff for a spot in the actual tournament.
Yeah. Is that what we're going to get to? Is like, are we just going to create a bubble tournament? Like the 12 teams that are.
And if that's what you want to do, just call it what it is. Call it a bubble tournament. Okay, fine. But the NCAA tournament begins on that Thursday.
Yeah. So let's do that. We'll expand it to 76, but the last 12 in are not actually in the tournament. We'll call that the bubble tournament. And then they all advance. And I guess, how would you end up? I guess you'd have to include some of the 64. You'd have to make it like 16.
I don't know.
Because then you have to have 4 opponents for whoever the other team is, like, because they all would be like 10 or 11 seeds or whatever. So you'd have to figure that out. So
yeah.
But then shouldn't you make it so that they become like 16? Because then you're handing the biggest advantage to, or maybe it's not the biggest advantage because they're all like bubble teams that are maybe better than the 16 seeds. I don't know. I think there's ways you could do it where there's a bubble tournament, and I wouldn't hate that idea if it was like this separate thing. This isn't the NCAA tournament. This is your chance to prove you can get in. And in that sense, they would deserve to get in because
apparently your regular season and conference tournament wasn't quite enough.
Yeah.
So let's give you one more chance.
Yeah, which... Again, I've talked about how playoffs in the conference tournament, like, it's a dumb way to determine a champion, but it's March Madness, and so I kind of love it anyway.
But in an era where we're trying to make even more money because we have to spread that money around to the athletes themselves, I can understand why they're looking at more revenue streams. Yeah, well, and adding more games and more television inventory is the way to do that.
Yeah, well, it's also just manufacturing drama. That's another aspect of this. It's why we have playoffs. Is because it's manufacturing those magical moments as best as you can. It's why the Elam ending is the thing, because they're trying to manufacture a game-winning shot in every game, because everyone loves game-winning shots. But they're also special because of how rare they are. It's why something like the Elam ending isn't the greatest idea in the world. Although I have warmed up to it a little more than I used to be. But still, it's not a great thing for sports to try that. That's why, like, when you look at NASCAR, they went from a season championship to a playoff, and it's hurt that sport. And so you try to limit as much of the manufactured drama. Like, a playoff is about as far as you're willing to go because, like, you're arbitrarily saying this game matters more. But we all kind of accept that, and there's a magic to it. Mm-hmm. It's like one of my other sayings is that the NCAA tournament is the worst way to determine a championship. But nobody cares. Yeah. Because it's so much fun, and it's magical, and it is iconic, and it is wonderful. But it's manufactured drama. It's a manufactured opportunity for Cinderella teams to make a run. But you try and limit that as much as possible. And, a bubble tournament is, I think, not a bad, weird idea we just came up with. It's still more of that manufactured drama. It's the same problem that I have with the conference tournaments. It's manufactured, unnecessary drama. Just give the team that was the best team the auto bid. Like which conference was it that their conference tournament is like, if you were the last seed, you'd have to win like 7 games in a row.
Oh yeah, is that like the SWAC?
Yeah, something like that.
It's like, yeah, their bracket just is stupid.
If you're the 1 seed, you get like 6 buys essentially. Like, there's 6 rounds that happen before you even show up. It's like, if you're going to that absurd extreme to protect what is objectively, by the number of games played and all that, and wins and losses and whatnot, if they're the best team, if you're going to those lengths to protect your best team, just don't even have a conference tournament. It's worthless.
5338 texting in. Bubble tournament is great. I can see bubbles painted on the floor.
Yeah, just have a bubble pattern on the floor.
I like that.
Be better than the pattern like the All-Star
sponsor,
game.
like Mr. Clean or.
Yeah. Well, no, it'd be something random like, I don't know. I don't want to give anyone free advertisement. Come up with an actual company.
Serve Pro.
Yes, the Serve Pro bubble. It'd be like Allstate or Warner Ladders.
Yeah, that's right.
Who's the official ladder currently? Didn't it change recently?
I don't know.
It was like DeWalt or something. I don't even. DeWalt makes ladders. They make tools. It's great branding. Whoever's the official ladder of the NCAA tournament, I've seen you every year, and I still don't know.
Left a lasting impression on us.
I'm still going to buy the cheapest ladder I find at Home Depot, and that's going to be the one I take home.
So not only is the NCAA tournament being discussed for expansion, but it's starting to heat up about the college football playoff expanding. We just barely had the 12-team playoff, and we are already trying to figure out ways to change it.
Yeah,
and the Big Ten and the SEC are trying to flex on their role in this and trying to put their stamp on things. Now, they can't do it immediately because the way it's currently formatted, it has to be a unanimous decision, which includes group of 5 representatives. But in the future here, in the not too distant future, SEC and Big Ten have huge voting rights on how this is going to be determined, and they're trying to flex on this to give more teams opportunities to go, but also changing who gets a first-round bye, an automatic qualification status.
Yeah, so we had our first year of the 12-team playoff, and I felt like, for all intents and purposes, it went as well as it was designed. And by that, I mean it actually went pretty well. It accomplished what it was supposed to accomplish. The conference champions got in. There was a little bit of chaos. There was plenty of discourse, put it that way, about who should get in and who shouldn't get in. There was some drama. It was kind of fun to watch. It was kind of toxic to see at times. But I felt like it went about as well as you could have hoped for a 12-team playoff. It did exactly what it was designed to do. Problem is, people didn't like that. The SEC and Big Ten, who have a host of media pawns that are just, they go to bat for the Big Ten or the SEC, and that is their entire job is to go to bat for the SEC has so many pawns in the media. It's crazy. Guys that are just explicitly the mouthpiece of the SEC and all of their talking points. And the Big Ten, they're trying to do the exact same thing. They're not as prolific as the SEC pawns, but they do exist. And it just becomes this whole mess, and that feeds into the toxicity. And so they're all trying to push this narrative of how, it wasn't actually good, and it needs to be changed, even though the 12-team playoff was fine. And mind you, there was a whole debate about whether or not it should have been 6 or 8 or 12 or 16, even while we were moving to the 12. But
yeah,
it's just completely unnecessary to be this quickly looking at 14 or 16. And I can't tell if it's just money driven by we want more of these games or money driven as in we want more of our teams. It's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I think the fact the SEC and Big Ten are the biggest ones pushing, I feel like it's maybe more of the latter of we just want more of our teams in. Whatever we can do to rig this in our favor, we want that. And it is I'm not kidding. If they did this thing where they expanded to 14 or 16 teams, and you have the SEC and Big Ten getting 4 automatic qualifying spots, I'm just going to lose interest in the college football playoff completely. That's not to say I won't watch it. It's not to say I'm going to boycott it. I'm not that kind of person. I enjoy a good football game, but I will just lose all interest in I won't believe in the integrity of college football, which my belief in the integrity of college football was already razor thin. It was barely non-existent considering how corrupt of an organization it is. But just you're essentially ruining the integrity, what remaining integrity you have, where you're just deliberately rigging it for the SEC and Big Ten. And if you're just going to rig it like that, just get out of here. Go do your own thing. Yes, you'll make the most money and you'll have all the TV deal, but don't pretend like this is some equal college thing. Go do your own thing. Go be the power league, the power college football league, and let us, who are all the mid-majors, group of 5, let us all do our own thing without having to pretend that we're on the same level while you're openly rigging things in your favor.
Yeah. So one of the proposals here is, and they're conference commissioners, athletic directors from a couple of these different conferences are having the extended conversations. Some of them last week, some of them are this week, and we could see some things decided by early or mid next week on the future of the college football playoff. But one of the more realistic proposals that seems to be out there, realistic in that likelihood of being accepted, not realistic as far as fairness, but realistic as far as being proposed that could be accepted, is that the SEC and the Big Ten would each receive 4 automatic qualifiers. The ACC and the Big 12 would receive 2 automatic qualifiers, and then 1 to the highest ranked group of 5 champion. There would also be 1 available to, well, there would be 3 at-large spots. One of those would be to Notre Dame if they are ranked inside the top 14. So it doesn't really leave a lot of room for at-large opportunities, but they don't like the first round bye stuff in the future. That didn't seem to play very well this season. So, look, I don't mind them having discussions to always try to refine and improve a system, but can we at least see how it works a year or a couple of seasons before we start blowing it up and trying to change it altogether?
Yeah.
Like, it barely had a season where we saw it for the first time. And yeah, it does need to be some tweaks, but this is like wholesale changes, what's being discussed now.
Yeah, it didn't follow the script because they wanted it to be SEC, Big Ten as a number 1 seed, which that was true, it was Oregon. But they wanted it to be, SEC, Big Ten champion is 1, 2, and probably, and you get the ACC and
Big 12.
Big 12 is like the 3 and the 4. But then you'd right behind them would be SEC and Big 10. But it didn't go to script the way they wanted to, because when Boise State got the first round bye, and then people were whining about some of the best teams in the country having to be like a 5 or 6 or a 7 seed, and people whining about how Oregon, the number 1 seed, had the hardest path to the playoff or whatever, and just all this messed up noise. Some of it had some legitimate argument, others was just pointless whining. But here's the other thing. For people who spent decades fighting against any kind of playoffs under the guise of protect the regular season are basically murdering in front of our eyes the notion of a conference championship. Conference championships will mean nothing because you're going to give automatic qualifiers to both teams that make it into the conference championship game, and the 2, if it's the Big Ten and the SEC, the 2 teams behind them who didn't even make the conference championship game. And, again, both teams in the conference basically of all the power conferences except for the Big 12, who's kind of being shown to be the little brother of the Power 4, because they'd only get like the 1, I think, the 1 automatic bid. But you're just murdering in front of everyone's eyes the concept of a conference championship, because it doesn't matter if you win it to get in, and it doesn't matter if you win it and then lose in the playoff, because everyone will just consider you a fraud. Everyone will say, "Oh, you're a fraud. You won the Big Ten, but you didn't win the national title, so you suck."
Yeah,
and so it's just ironic. That's why I bring up, like, they wanted to protect the regular season and conference champions, and they're just murdering the concept of a conference championship right in front of our eyes.
Well, and it would change how the SEC, how many conference games they play, because they play 8, but this may change it to where they play 9 conference games each year, and it could affect how the whole conference title games take place, or do they take place anymore? When do they take place? So, because you try to get these expanded playoff in without having it stretch on forever to wrap up the college football season. So
at this point, like, if you're going to do this kind of playoff, just get rid of conference championship games. I know that's tricky because you have these like 20, team conferences, but you did that to yourself. So deal with it and just give the regular season title winner the top seed and all that. Don't play a conference championship game. Just have the top 4 seeds from your conference go to the playoff, because nobody's going to care about that conference title game anyway. And trust me, this dialogue will start showing up. The idea of eliminating conference title games, that'll come up. Whether or not it'll happen, I couldn't say, but it's going to come up.
All right, we got to take a timeout here on the Full Court Press. When we come back, it was the All-Star weekend for the NBA. Did you tune in at all to their new format? Did it work? How so? And if it didn't work, where did it miss? We'll discuss our own thoughts and reactions next on the Full Court Press.
A mouth-watering Cafe Sabor burrito, smothered in cheese and fresh guacamole with endless chips and salsa, plus your favorite drink, all for just $7.95. It's Locals Day at Cafe Sabor. Every Thursday, the drinks are bottomless, the chips and salsa are endless, and the burritos are amazing, all for just $7.95. There's nothing better. It's Cafe Sabor's way of saying thanks, Cache Valley. Don't miss Locals Day every Thursday at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station, 6th West and Center in Logan.
Every question is a great question at Adams Wealth Advisors. Do we have enough money for retirement? Can we finally plan that trip? With the ups and downs of the economy, are our portfolios recession-proof?
This is Craig Adams. At Adams Wealth Advisors, we are here to help you receive peace of mind, whether you've done a lot of planning or a little planning. Count on our team at Adams Wealth Advisors for honesty, professionalism, and integrity.
Visit adamswealthadvisors.com or call 752-1702 to schedule a time with an advisor today.
No matter what the conditions, DD Auto and Salvage can get your vehicle up and off your property. Now is the time to plan to make extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage and moving that old vehicle. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204. That's 787-1204 today. See store for details.
Les Olson IT structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT.
Many Aggie fans like to go to the game. Some fans love to yell at the TV, and all fans like to wear a shirt or a jacket with their favorite team's logo. Aggie fans find the best selection of USU logoed apparel at Locker 42. Find yourself an Aggie t-shirt for $10. Locker 42 features Aggie logoed hoodies, jackets, and golf shirts, and a hat wall with over 40 styles. Women's specific apparel, youth sizes for the junior Aggie, and toddler and infant Aggie items as well. Locker 42 is a store for Utah State fans by Utah State fans, and proud to be part of Aggie Nation.
A diamond is forever and is perfect to represent your love. For those special occasions, give her a natural, one-of-a-kind diamond, as unique as she is. Our exclusive brand of Needham Brilliant Diamonds are white in color, high in clarity, and are recognized for their precise cut. These diamonds are natural, untreated, and are the real thing. Show her you care enough to give her a diamond, an investment for generations to come. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. SC Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. NBA All-Star Weekend. I'll be honest, I missed a lot of it.
I didn't watch a single minute.
I thought I might tune in to watch the three-point shootout, maybe the slam dunk.
I couldn't even tell you who was in the three-point shootout. I think Dame was in it.
But I missed all of that. And then I casually turned in for the All-Star. I don't even want to call it a game. I don't know what it was. It was a TNT Love Fest. And every now and then there was some basketball kind of being played on a court. But I was just curious to see, Keontae George. He made it he was part of the group that won in the Rising Stars stuff on Friday and got to participate in some of the things on Sunday. So I was just casually interested to see if he would do anything. But I really didn't get a chance to watch very much of that either, and it didn't hold my interest very much.
Yeah, and I kind of heard that because I didn't watch any of it, so I had no firsthand knowledge, but it seemed to be there was a lot of people complaining about how there was just a bunch of stuff interrupting the basketball, like they'd play and they'd pause to do, I don't know, some like concert or something. I don't know the exact details. But
yeah, and then they would play again, and then they pause to do some tribute to Kenny and Charles, Shaq, and
Because as if they're that important to interrupt All-Star game for them.
I get it. This is like their last time right now with TNT with the rights to it, but did interrupt the middle of the game to all of a sudden start doing weird stuff?
If they're so important, why are they kicking TNT off of? Like, if they're that important, that they're so important to the game that they're worth honoring. Like, I don't have too much personally against any of those guys. In fact, barely anything, if at all, and any of that is towards Shaq. But it's just like, I don't know. It's just completely unnecessary. People didn't like it. And the NBA keeps toying with all these things of, this will fix the All-Star game if we do this. When, what's the problem with the All-Star game? It's crap like LeBron going up to the stand in the media and they're asked, like, what are you going to see from you in the All-Star game? He's like, I'm not going to play.
Yeah, instead of announcing this earlier and giving somebody else an opportunity to take his spot, he waited to the last minute to decide that he wasn't going to play. And if you got an injury, you can't play, it's an exhibition, don't push it. I get that. But if you've got an inkling that you might not play and you want to lay out, decide that sooner. That really illustrated the whole selfish nature of the NBA in that weekend.
Yeah, I 100% believe he knew he wasn't going to play and decided to wait until the last second anyway.
Yeah.
Just because that's the kind of stuff that's wrong with the All-Star game. And honestly, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that players are prioritizing health over an exhibition. But don't pretend, this is the biggest thing. Don't pretend that you're going to fix the All-Star game. You're not. Stop coming up with new ideas for what, as far as the All-Star game. I've had my ideas for All-Star festivities, but do not pretend that you have the solution. All the players keep saying, oh, I wish it was East versus West. Shut up. You'd give the same amount of effort in East versus West. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Because that was happening before. They changed it because East versus West still sucked. So people keep saying, oh, I wish it was East versus West. No, you don't. You're just saying that because you want something different now because you see this doesn't work. But East versus West wasn't working because they didn't care. And no, putting home court in the NBA Finals is a stupid idea. Please don't bring that up because that's not going to fix it either. Because 12 out of the 24 All-Stars aren't even going to care because they know they're not going to make the NBA championship. And putting home court on something as dumb as an exhibition game between All-Stars in the middle of February, that's stupid. It was stupid when Major League Baseball did it. Everyone said so, and they stopped doing it for a good reason. Please don't bring it to the NBA. We literally have an example of how dumb of an idea it was. Don't do it. So that's the thing. The NBA just needs to give up on the idea of an All-Star game because they're not going to fix it unless they force these guys to compete at basically gunpoint. You're not going to do it. Offering more prize money isn't going to do it because they care about their legacy and their health and all that more than these guys are sitting out games and losing money at times anyway. So
yeah, and I thought that this new format might create a way to at least manufacture some level of competitiveness.
The only thing it did is it made Draymond say something stupid.
Well, he wasn't the only one who said something stupid. Steph Curry, after the game, said obviously a lot of conversation around the fourth team and the Rising Stars. And the All-Star experience on Sunday is very sacred, and you have to work your way into that. Yeah. If it was that sacred, then why don't you treat it like it's sacred?
Yeah,
the problem is that you haven't treated it like it's sacred. That's why they've had to come up with this other alternative.
Yeah, the players talk a big game about the All-Star game mattering, and none of them walk the walk. They're all dang hypocrites. They want to be selected as All-Stars, and they want to give none of the effort. So honestly, the best way to kind of teach them a lesson would just get rid of All-Star selections. Because they want the All-Star selection. It's part of their Hall of Fame resume and all the honors and
just
all that.
Just take a mid-season break.
Yeah.
You know what? Everybody, go home.
Yeah.
Take a weekend. We'll see you back here in a few days.
Yeah. Just if they don't want to actually be an All-Star, they just shouldn't be All-Stars. We can do that. Don't talk about how it's sacred if you're taking urinating on the side of the All-Star building.
Yeah, it's just bonkers. So it didn't really work well. Look, going to 40 points, that felt. I originally thought that was going to be fine, but it really felt like the game was over before it started.
Yeah, the ideas they're coming up with, you can find the logical through line for why they're wanting to do it, but it's still not addressing the main problem.
Right, and I see what like Shaq and Kenny and Charles, what they tried to do with, we got some original guys, we got older guys, we've got some rising-ish, stars, we got the European, the international flavor. Like, I appreciate what they were trying to do there, but it still didn't land.
Yeah, well, when the underlying
the teams just didn't really care that much.
You can't manufacture drama with a bunch of wet raisins. No. Like, it's not going to happen.
No.
If nobody cares to compete, they're not going to do it.
Victor Wembanyama, you could tell he was out there trying. He was trying to play defense. He was trying to block shots.
Yeah.
But
then the All-Stars get mad when you try and do that. It's like, why are you trying to block my dunk?
Only big babies. So anyway, that was the All-Star weekend. How did we do in trying to predict what would happen this weekend, Jason, with our pick six?
Some of which involved the All-Star game, not very heavily, but
there were some.
So let's get to pick six. Let's see how well you and I did. So starting with the lines that I set, how many free throws would Utah State make against New Mexico? Set the line at 11.5. They've struggled in free throw percentage, but they made 81%. They shot 13 of 15, so they hit the over. You took the over. I took the under.
Okay.
Then you got Isaiah Collier, assists against the Clippers. Over under 9.5. He had 8. You took the under. I took the over.
Okay.
Then going to this one, what would San Diego State's largest deficit be against Boise State? Over under 8.5. Over being they would trail by more than 8.5. Under being they would trail by less. Whether or not they won the game, at some point would they trail by that 8.5 line. I took the under, you took the over. They only trailed by 5, and that was early on in the game. It was a 9-4 lead for Boise State. That was their largest lead and San Diego State's largest deficit. So you're up 2-1 as we go to your lines.
Okay.
Keontae George, points plus assists in the first game of the Rising Stars.
Should have expanded that to just Friday.
Yeah, probably, because you would have got it, because he had 11. You said the line at 14.5. I took the under. You took the over. He had 11. He had 10 points and 1 assist in that first game. So we're tied 2-2 going into the last two lines here. San Diego State blocks against Boise State. This is when you said the line at 3.5. I took the over. You took the under. San Diego State had 10.
Oh, my word.
Magoon Gwath had 5 himself, including a highlight reel one against Tyson Degenhart. So I'm up 3-2 going into the last line here. Utah State women's basketball, 3-pointers made against San Diego State. You set the line at 8.5. I took the under. You took the over. They made 7.
Oh, so close.
So pretty darn close there. So I come away with the 4-2 win. The tiebreaker was who would win the Celebrity All-Star game. And you took Team Jerry Rice. So that left me with Team Barry Bonds. And, Barry Bonds is Team 1. So
of course. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Cold weather is here. Let the gold medal winner in the Best of Northern Utah's fireplace category help you update your home with Napoleon's full line of gas or wood-burning products. Building a new home? Let the professionals at Advanced Fireplace and Stove design and install your fireplace. From traditional to modern, Napoleon has something for every design and every budget. Install a product that will allow your family to make memories for years to come. Stop by at their showroom or visit them at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
Hey, it's Jonas Knox. It's inevitable. Rain, snow, and ice are coming and will make driving a challenge. Thankfully, the experts at Tire Rack know a thing or two about conquering winter's worst. New tires elevate traction and braking and will keep you safe. Tire Rack sells only the best.